Wagwan people, what you saying? It is I, Diligent Fingers, and welcome back to the Viewpoint Reacts. TVP, welcome back to the YouTube channel, welcome back to another video. Looking forward to doing this one. As you can see, the video title is the video that made Jordan Peterson famous. And back in 2016, I remember when this whole blow up came out, I would see clips of news reports, you know, the little little 2-3 minute videos that like Fox News and CBS and ITV were doing. Obviously, you only got to see a small part of what actually took place between this person and Jordan Peterson, who were having the exchange. The idea came to me after I did the Fresh and Fit React video and you know, I thought to myself, like I said in that other video, I thought to myself, I've always wanted to do these videos. I've always wanted to react and give my opinion on you know, a lot of these situations that are happening, and this was one of the first videos that I thought of because I'd never really got to understand the whole scope of what was going on. And when I actually searched this video and found out and saw that it was 13 minutes and 20 seconds long, do you know what I mean? That was where I was like, right, there's going to be a lot more to this than I first thought. Do you know what I mean? Because if you remember, you know, when everyone was first being exposed to it, it was just the argument over, you know, the pronouns that everyone saw. No one really saw what led up to that unless they went out and looked for it. 5 years on from seeing the blowout and now being in a position to be able to do these react videos, I want to know if I would still feel the same way as I did 5 years ago. So without further ado, let's get into the video, get into the reaction video. Please, you can tell that I'm not good at doing this kind of stuff, but if you did enjoy the video, please like the video because it really will help. And I'll keep doing these reaction videos. I want to anyway, but I'll keep doing these reaction videos if you do like them. If you want more of these videos, please subscribe to the channel. I'm seeing that it's nearly 3.5 minutes and I've not reacted to anything, so let's get into the reaction.
I want to go talk to Peterson. Peterson, do you have any comments on the Nazi presence at your protest? The presence of Nazis and white supremacists assaulting people at your protest, do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I don't like Nazis.
Then why are you...
Why were they here?
Well, how can I answer?
Are there...
Okay, so instantly, if you could see my reaction, like, instantly, I'm like, why would you approach... Going into a situation where you're like, can you comment on something that happened at your event that you had nothing to do with or no control over? Especially from what I've learned of Jordan Peterson over the years, like the last thing I would think that he would be is a Nazi sympathizer. That's the last thing that I would get from, do you know what I mean, any of the videos, any of the sort of thought pieces, any of the sort of conventions, speaking engagements that I've seen from him that he's done, even the debates, like, do you know, there's nothing there that would suggest to me that he is in some way a Nazi supporter, Nazi sympathizer, or anything like that. So I'm not surprised that he would be like caught off guard by a question like that. It's weird. It's almost as if they expected him to be like, yeah, do you know what I mean? And when he said like, I don't like Nazis, you could tell they were caught off guard by like his response.
Nazis and white supremacists assaulting people at your protest, do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I don't like Nazis.
Then why are you...
Why were they here?
Well, how can I answer?
Are there...
Like they couldn't even answer, like they couldn't even answer the second question, that, well, why were they, like, as if they were expecting him to say yay, and they were expecting him to show support. So they've already gone into this situation with an assumption and an image of this person that they're going to question. You know what, I'm glad I've actually gone back and found this video to actually watch it, because this is crazy. This is crazy.
Are their views in alignment with yours? At some point you
I
have to
think
realize...
that's a foolish question. Look, if you want to know what my views are,
I've watched all of your videos, yes.
Including...
Yes, I have.
Yes.
then why would you ask such a question?
Because this is my interpretation of your videos.
Apparently.
See, I remember this bit. Interesting. I remember this bit. What sticks out to me with that is I remember having conversations about some of the situations that I was in the past, and people would want to give their opinion on the situation. I'd be like, did you watch my videos? I would be told, nah. And like instantly I'd be like, well, how can you really give your opinion on this situation if you don't know the full story? I would get the answer of, you know, I've not got the time to watch 20 minutes, an hour, 2 hour, whatever length of video that I was doing, whether it's to do with mental health or anything else. So if you've not got the time to actually do that full research before you go into a situation, how am I really supposed to take anything you say credibly or with any kind of merit? How can I take your advice if you're not giving advice based on the full scope of what you're trying to help me on, help me with? Do you know what I mean? Like, if you don't understand the full situation of what you're trying to help me with, how can you really help me? So yeah, I completely relate to like his reaction to that, because I've been in similar situations like that myself, and it is confusing.
All of the people who arranged the protest against you watched all of your videos.
It's like, do you want to
I have
disavow?
150 videos on YouTube.
No, your lectures, which sparked the debate.
Okay.
Do
I
you
have
want to
150.
disavow the support?
Could you let me talk?
Whoa. Like, whoa. This is crazy. This is great. I'm trying to get my head around the thought process of this line of questioning, this line of inquiry, because it's baffling me. I'm not even the person who's being questioned, but it's baffling me as well.
To her for a moment.
Don't call me that, please.
So, I have 150 lectures on YouTube. There's 500 hours of my views.
Do you really
If
think that
wanna
you're
find
worth
out
all
what
of
they
that
were-
time?
So look,
So I remember this as well. I remember being taken aback by that as well. You've just said that you've watched all of his videos. So you've just admitted that to you, he was worth that time. But then in the same breath, you're showing by how you're reacting and the questions that you're asking that you've not actually watched all of his videos. So therefore, you don't have a full scope of what his views are and what he's aligned with. This is weird. This is weird. Going back to this video with hindsight, this is weird.
I will answer your question, okay? I've studied Nazism for a very long time. It's been 4 decades, and I understand it very well. And I can tell you that there's some awful people lurking in the corners, and they're ready to come out. And if the radical left keeps pushing the way
That
it's
sounds
pushing,
very much like a
they're
threat.
going to come.
That sounds very much like a
not a
threat.
threat.
That sounds very much like a threat.
See, this is, I remember this. This is where I started to switch off, because there's a lot of people that study what happened with the Nazis to try and understand their thought process, what led them to the point of, you know, doing what they did, because it affected millions of people. Like, millions of people died as a result. So there has been a lot of people that have studied it, that have written books about it, but also in no way, shape or form support what the Nazis did. So for someone to be explaining that, like, there's people out there that have the same alignments as the Nazis, do you know what I mean? And they're waiting for things, they're waiting for something to make them react. I can relate to that, because as a black person dealing with racism myself, there are things that, you know, that I get told growing up, don't do this, don't do that. It'll be a reason for them to, am I going to take that, do you know what I mean, from my elders or my parents as a threat? When they're telling me that other people that support racist people, like, are waiting for individual things, do you know what I mean, for them to be able to attack? Am I going to take that from my parents as a threat when they're trying to explain something to me? Especially if I've asked them a question. Do you know what I mean? I'm wanting them to explain. Do you know what I mean? And before I even get to fully explain my point, I'm cut off. Do you know what I mean? I hate being interrupted so much. It's horrible, especially when I'm being asked to explain something and I can't fully explain because I'm being interrupted straight away. So I can understand this frustration, most definitely.
Would you like to disavow the physical violence? Trans people were physically assaulted at this rally in your name. Would you like to disavow that violence?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you wish that didn't happen, and you want to, and I'm going to post this online, that you would like people to not to be more accommodating of trans people.
See, when you've not got a problem and when you are not part of the problem that you are being accused of, it is fine. put the thing on video, I wholeheartedly disavow this shit. I would be exactly the same. Yes, I don't want anyone to be hurt at any of my events. I don't condone that. I don't support it in any way. Take this video, put it up online, let everyone see it. I've got nothing to hide. There's no problems here. Really, that should have been where the conversation ended, really. If it's about the violence that happened at a protest and you're asking the person who you think is responsible for it, do they disavow it? And they say yes. Like, no problem. Even you've even threatened them with like putting the video up online for everybody to see, and we're watching the video now. That should be the end of the conversation. But because 5 years ago, how it was presented was more about the pronouns than it was about the actual start of the conversation, the actual start of the interaction, which was violence against trans people at a protest. Like, nobody's really thinking about that because the attention has been diverted to somewhere else. Now that I've seen how it started and what the core issue was, which was the violence at the protest, it's crazy to know that it led up to the situation about arguing about pronouns.
People and people of color at your events in future.
I'm
a person of color. I'm a person of color, and I felt very accommodating. I felt like my voice. Thank you very much.
You wanted to disavow, and this is the disavowal. I am not an advocate of violence. I'm speaking out the way I'm speaking out because I think this is a route to no violence. And violence is lurking. And you can say that sounds like a threat.
There was no violence at our protest, though. There was violence at your protest. So what does that say about our views?
It's not my protest.
That was another thing that really found it interesting. Well, there was no violence at our protest. I was like, okay. Good thing. I mean, do you know what I mean? And he even says it himself there, like, it wasn't his protest. Why would he have a protest at his own event? Like, it doesn't make, what this person is saying just doesn't make any sense at all. But again, as it was presented 5 years ago, we weren't told to focus on that. We were told to focus on the arguments over the pronouns. You know, but let's get to the actual arguments of the pronouns.
Questions isn't very helpful if you actually want to have a dialogue. You have no idea if I'm your enemy. You have no idea about me.
You won't use my pronouns, so I'm pretty sure you're my enemy, yes.
Yeah, well, I know.
And here we go. Now, the first time I saw this video, I did clock when he said her and they said, don't call me that. I did clock that, but I didn't really understand what that was. And because, you know, we can't see the person, do you know what I mean? I think that adds to the confusion of, okay, well, who is he responding to in terms of, you know, the misuse of pronouns, not using their correct pronouns. It's in my thought, it's in my head now because, you know, the conversation is developed from, you know, 5 years ago. I've got some friends that are non-binary and they've explained to me from their side, you know, and helped me to understand. It's not a problem for me to say them, they, you know, because I understand it. But there's been times where I've been told, like even recently with a friend that I just recently come out as non-binary. They told me it was fine. Do you know what I mean? They didn't have to over-explain because I'd dealt with it before. I asked what the pronouns were. It was them, they. Not a problem at all. But sometimes throughout that night, I would slip up because I've just been told the information. Up until that point, this person was a she. And now they've just told me that they are now they and them. So I would slip up and they would get so angry. Do you know what I mean? They correct me straight away. Don't they? It's not she, it's them. It's they. Can I get some time to get used to this, please? Do you know what I mean? I've known you for the longest time as this person and this version of a person. You've just told me. I think it's a bit disingenuous and unfair to expect me to just be able to switch. Everyone needs time to adjust. Do you know what I mean? But especially in a heated situation like this, if I'd just met someone from initial look, they look like a woman. Do you know what I mean? And I address them as a woman, and all they say is, don't call me that. There isn't even time to actually address why they shouldn't be called she or he. It's just, no, carry on with this heated discussion. Then we get back to, okay, you called me this when you shouldn't have. You are wrong. Like, It's very disingenuous and very antagonizing. I can't even see the person in this video. The camera is just on Jordan. It's a bit of a mad one, this one. It's a bit of a mad one.
Oh, you think that, but I don't believe that using your pronouns is going to do you any good in the long run. I think it'll do quite the contrary.
What the?
Is that your medical opinion?
What, is that your medical opinion? Like, you are aware that non-binary people are valid in the American Psychological Association.
Is that your opinion?
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
It's about non-binary pronouns.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
No, it's not.
I'm saying that that's
Did
what
you
I'm
come to the
about.
rally? Were you there when I spoke?
Yeah, I've been here for this whole thing.
Okay, well, I don't know that. It's a genuine question. I think...
I'm laughing because there's been times where genuine questions actually get taken as, you know, antagonizing questions because of the nature of the conversation that's being had. So that, like, he asked him, did you come to my rally? Yeah, I was here the whole time. As if, you know, Jordan was supposed to have known that this person was there at the rally for the whole time. But that person has already gone into this situation with their own vision of who Jordan Peterson is before even speaking to him, actually having a civil conversation and really taking in what his views are. I know that they said that they've watched all the videos. I can't believe that. They've already debunked themselves with that already, with just how they're approaching this whole situation. Don't lead with believing you have all the answers straight away, especially to a situation that you don't even know about. It's not going to get you very far. And then when you do have 2-3 other people also trying to jump in and get their points, how is anybody really supposed to understand what's going on? Clearly, initially, this was not about non-binary people, pronouns, or anything like that. This was supposed to be about, you know, violence against trans people at protests. Now it's turned into this conversation about non-binary and pronouns. So now I understand completely where Jordan is coming from, but on video with a completely different context put on it by other people. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it can look like he's saying, I don't care about non-binary, I don't care about pronouns, but context matters. Seeing how all of this started off, and we're only 2 minutes and 40 seconds into the video, but seeing how all of this started off and how it's led to this point completely changes the whole context of this situation. Because like I said before, I've got no problem with using pronouns or anything like that, but if you're telling me, you're basically telling me what to do rather than asking me to do something, of course the response is going to be, don't tell me what to do. So I'm going to get into this last bit because I don't think we need to get more into this video. I think that's why it was just a short clip and it wasn't the whole 13 minutes and 20 second video that went out there, because a narrative needed to be shaped.
I think that's what's happening, is that we're pushing over a line we shouldn't cross. The newest legislation is requiring people to use.
But you are aware that that's being put in place so that we can't get fired. We need to be written into the Canada human rights legislation, or we can be fired for our gender identity.
I'm not aware of that.
Well, then why did you make a fucking video about it? I've been denied housing as a trans person. These rights would protect me.
Denied housing?
I've been denied housing.
From the state or for the open market? So have you been denied housing, like, from the government?
It's illegal either way if we had human rights.
From the government?
I'm not-
Or have you tried to get a house like everybody else and they said, no, you're weird, you can't work? No, if the state has done that, that's a problem.
They said,
but if someone doesn't want to live with you, that's their right.
They said, no, you're...
I mean, that's a good point. There is a distinct difference. If I've got a home, I'm going to be living with this person that's going to be coming into my home or going to be renting my home off me like it's still my property. I have a right to choose who I have on my property. Now, me personally, pronouns, trans, or anything like that is not going to bother me. But then as an example, you know, as a person with a low immune system, do you know what I mean? And if someone is going to be living with me, if you've not had a vaccination or anything like that, I'm not going to be letting you into my home. It really is as simple as that. Outside, we can be around each other or whatever. That's outside. I'm going to have as much risk catching whatever, do you know what I mean, is everybody else. But when it comes to my home, I have a right to choose who I want in my property and who I don't want in my property. So the point that gentleman made was a very, very good point, because the government has to be accommodating for everybody. everybody. So housing associations, housing projects, building developments and stuff, they have to be accommodating for everybody. But when it comes to actual businesses that are owned by a person or a family, do you know what I mean, or anything like that, the rules are completely different. When it's a big business in terms of providing services to, you know, the whole, you know, of the country or the whole world, like telecommunications, broadband services, food, hospitality, that has to be accommodating for everybody, because everyone from any walk of life could come into that establishment and ask for services from you. But when it comes to housing, private housing, rather than from the government or the state, when it comes to private housing, it's completely different because it's a private property. Do you know what I mean? That's why you've got private landlords, and that's why you've got housing associations and council landlords. But the conversation has gone left because, again, the people coming into this discussion are not coming into this with a genuine intention of trying to educate. It's to antagonize.
So no, if I had human rights, that wouldn't have fucking happened.
Yeah, you're weird. I don't want to live with schizophrenic
As far as
people.
I'm
I don't wanna live
concerned,
with people with
that's a
bipolar.
terrible thing. It's too bad that that's happened.
So
to
you don't want us to, but you don't want us to have protections in the human rights bill that will allow me to have employment,
I don't
allow
want-
me to have housing security,
want-
allow me to have medical care. That's what this is about.
That's
It's
what
not
you
about
think it's
infringing
about.
on your rights or making you learn a new
I
fucking pronoun.
I don't think that's what it's about. What evidence do you have that attempting to transform the way that people use pronouns is going to produce a positive effect on
Because
society?
are you aware that there is a trans boy who killed himself in psychiatric care recently because he was continuously being misgendered by his care workers?
And that is my precise problem.
And there have been multiple recorded instances of trans people killing themselves because they are not being integrated into society. We are not looking for special.
See, that I can see why he's getting frustrated, because it's 3-4 different people interjecting, not letting a full thought process actually come out. I feel bad for everybody there, because there's so much heightened emotion at that point, where as soon as people hear something, they react impulsively rather than letting a point finish so they can give full context of where they're coming from. They just interrupt straight away and they get into it. Now, when it comes to the point of non-binary people choosing to check out due to being dead named and things like that, I've spoken to somebody recently, a couple of weeks ago, who explained all of that to me. Dead naming is a completely new concept that I recently found out about. I don't even think I actually acknowledged it in this when I first actually saw this going about. But dead naming is when somebody has changed their name for whatever reason, but people still use their old name. Now, when it comes to, you know, non-binary people, trans people, when they've gone through a process of trying to get themselves happy with themselves, and that includes changing a name, to be constantly reminded of their older self and their past and what they went through before when they're trying to make a new start, that can be so mentally draining on the brain. That can be absolutely horrible. I went through, you know, wanting to change my name after, you know, the situation that I went to, the traumatic event that I went to, and because it was so publicized at the time, I went through a period of really thinking about changing my name, using that as a way of being able to create a new start for myself. But then I started to realize how much that would entail, changing passports, changing medical documents, work documents, all of this stuff that is attached to you. You've got to change all those aspects of your banking. Do you know what I mean? Wage slips, like everything has to be changed because you've made that change yourself. The reason why I didn't do it is because the overwhelming nature of how much work would need to be done just by changing my name. I remember when people are getting married, and the wives would always tell me about how difficult it was getting stuff changed, and how long it took people to get used to, you know, her surname being a different surname. So, you know, I can definitely understand like that side of it, how frustrating, difficult, and especially in the case of non-binary and trans people, you know, how demoralizing and depressing it can be when people don't use your new name, especially when it's coming from prejudicious people and homophobic people and transphobic people. It's more of a case of they refuse to accept the new version that you've become. I felt that you know, going through my mental health journey where, you know, people know me from being this broken guy with all these mental problems and not really having a handle or a grip on, you know, any of these things that I'm going through, to now being a lot better with all of these things. You know, there has been a noticeable change in me. Do you know what I mean? And people find it difficult to accept that I have changed. My viewpoint has changed. My confidence has improved. My self-esteem has improved. And I'm a lot more sure of myself and, you know, focused on, you know, what I'm doing and the points that I'm making and what I believe needs to be done for me and the boundaries that I want to set for myself. People need to accept when people do change. Do you know what I'm saying? Instead of holding on, you know, to the old version of themselves. So I completely understand the dead naming side of things when people won't accept the changes that you've made for yourself at the benefit of yourself. I wholeheartedly understand that, and it's terrible that it leads people to want to check out because it is so mentally damaging and mentally straining.
We are looking to be able to integrate ourselves into society, and if you refuse to refer to us by our pronouns, which is not allowed to ask, singular they pronouns go all the way back to Shakespeare. It's not a new thing. If you refuse to let us integrate ourselves into society, you create alienation that results in suicide. We are in a suicide epidemic right now. What are you contributing to this as a psychologist?
Man, you know, you're almost impossible to talk to. You're so full of rhetoric that it's impossible to listen to you. I would be more than happy.
If the feeling is mutual, then why engage in the conversation then? If the feeling is mutual, then why engage in the conversation? If you find Jordan Peterson impossible to listen to and you believe is so full of rhetoric, almost to a point that you believe that his mind can't be changed, there's no way that in the world that he could change your mind, why engage in the conversation? This isn't like on social media a war of words where things can be taken out of context and no emotion or tone can be gathered from the situation. This is face to face, recorded on camera, with the camera in Jordan's face. I truly believe I would be caught off guard if that's how I was approached, and that can't help anybody. Do you know what I mean? If you're trying to help somebody understand the situation, antagonizing them is not going to help them understand, because they're going to feel attacked and instantly they're going to want to defend themselves, and they're not going to be able to take in anything that you're actually trying to say. I'm going to end the video there. I don't think anything more needs to be said, but I'm glad I've gone back to it so I can actually get proper context on the whole situation, because I really do believe context matters. In a world where everyone wants to just dash context out of, you know, the window and make everything black and white. No, context matters in everything. Nothing is ever as simple as it looks. So yeah, if you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much, so much. I'm trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers, so I've got more features for me to be able to interact with my subscribers themselves and stuff. So being able to watching the actual video to the end will help things in terms of getting the video out to the wider people, triggering the algorithm. If you did get to the end of the video and you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. That also helps make the channel grow. If you've got any views and opinions, please leave them in the comments. I'd love to read them all. If you know of any other videos that you would like me to react to, please leave the suggestions in the comments as well, and then I'll be able to get on to reacting to them for you guys. But with that, thank you very much for watching or listening. I hope you have an amazing day, an amazing week. Take it easy, look after yourself, look after your mental health. Mental health is wealth, trust me. And as always, blessings to you all.